As many of you know, just over 4 years ago, the United States SEC filed its lawsuit against Ripple. I'm finally able to announce that this case has ended. It's over. Sitting here today and reflecting on 4 years ago, it seems very clear to me that this case was doomed from the start. In so many ways, it was the first major shot fired in the war on crypto. I truly felt like I knew then that Ripple was not only on the right side of the law, but I felt that we were also going to be proven to be on the right side of history.
It really, I think, sends an ominous sign for innovation around cryptocurrency in the United States. Picking winners in general has not been something the US government should be in the business of doing.
I think the judge realizes this is not just about Ripple, this will have broader implications. As Mary Jo White, the former head of the SEC, has said publicly that she views this as a dead wrong, and the SEC is dead wrong on this decision.
Ripple is the first company with the resources, determination, and grit to fight back against the agency's overreach. And today, this journey finally concludes. Today is a victory and a long overdue surrender by the SEC. The SEC, under Chairman Gary Gensler, went after the whole industry, using the same arguments they used against us. They weren't out to protect investors. They were out to intimidate and terrorize. The regulator, whose primary purpose is to protect investors, went all in on a non-fraud, victimless lawsuit and wiped out $15 billion of value from innocent XRP holders. The SEC was the market manipulator. The SEC wasn't seeking justice. They were seeking to win a case at any cost. Forces inside our government aligned with the SEC and embarked on a campaign of debanking anyone associated with the crypto industry. This was lawfare, a war of legal terror. Fortunately, the judge rebuked the SEC multiple times in this journey. First, for lacking a, quote, faithful allegiance to the law. The SEC was sanctioned in our case for discovery abuses, and the pattern was repeated in other crypto cases.
Well, let's just say they're trying to confuse you.
We won then on every critical legal point, proving that the digital asset XRP is not a security. That is now the law. And those wins have laid the groundwork for policymakers to adopt a set of rules for crypto that are in line with nearly a century of securities law. With today's news, the war on crypto has ended in defeat for those who turned our own government against a technology and an entire industry. I'm heartened that we have paved the way for other industry players to see the value in not backing down, and for others to use our legal playbook to fight back. We are now closing a chapter in crypto history. I think we are all stronger for our prior litigation successes and today's landmark victory. Progress is worth fighting for. We won multiple pro-crypto victories at the ballot box last year. It's time to make the US the crypto capital of the world. Thankfully, we have new leadership in executive and legislative branches of our government. That leadership is actively seeking a rational and constructive way forward on crypto. Let's make the most of this. This is an incredibly promising moment. Let's come together. Let's leave the tribalism behind. Let me make it clearer that my main message, what Ripple's main message today, is about gratitude. It's gratitude to everyone who stood by us, to every Ripple employee, to the incredible legal team here at Ripple, led by the best chief legal officer in the business, Stu Alderodi. Gratitude certainly to the XRP family, to our customers, to our partners. Thank you. We couldn't have won this battle without all of you being behind us and working together. I truly believe we all agree there's immense opportunity with the largest economy in the world finally taking a pro-crypto and pro-innovation approach to build this technology in order to solve real-world problems for people around the planet. This was a fight Ripple never wanted, but one we knew we had to win. And today, emphatically, we have. Thank you.
That was some of the most important news that you will hear all year surrounding XRP and Ripple. And now finally we can say that there is a conclusive end to the SEC lawsuit and any appeals that they had against Ripple. In other words, the next 24 hours are extremely important. And in this video, I'm going to explain why you should be paying attention. But upon that news this morning, the price pumped from $2.30 all the way up to a local high of about $2.60. But here is why today is so important, because by the time you're watching this video, it's likely we will have more info and news surrounding Jerome Powell Powell and what he says about the economy, about inflation, unemployment, interest rates, which could very much throw a wrench into the entire market. Now, as a quick reminder, Jerome Powell is the most powerful man in banking. And aside from Donald Trump, nobody can move markets as much. And if you were paying any attention, back on December 18th, to be exact, everyone and their mother expected another interest rate cut, which would be bullish for markets and increase economic activity. Instead, however, the Fed and Jerome Powell came out and said that jobs remained steady based on the unemployment rate and that inflation was still above their 2% target. So they would look to keep interest rates flat at about 450 basis points until further notice. This pissed a lot of market participants off, and more to that, this was unexpected. And markets like certainty, which caused many investors to sell their holdings. Over the next 3 days from the date, TradFi markets sold off, as did crypto. The crypto market actually lost $580 billion in that short period of time, essentially making and marking the local top. And this happened for virtually all cryptos. Then on the January 29th Fed meeting, they decided to keep rates just as high. No changes. This, although more expected, still was not making investors happy. Over the preceding 5 days, crypto markets sold off to the tune of another $620+ billion. Now, for those of you who don't know, the Fed typically says it doesn't pay attention to markets, or at least the prices of stocks and indexes, and focuses on two mandates: jobs and essentially curbing inflation. In other words, if unemployment remains at or below 4 to 5%, they have nothing to worry about and will keep interest rates high as long as remaining inflation is sticky. And boy, has it been sticky. So although core inflation has actually eased down to 2.8%, which was lower than expected, we still recently saw a spike in the aggregate inflation rate up to 26.5% since February of 2020, potentially due to the mandate surrounding tariffs. Either way, seeing aggregate inflation rise is not a good sign that the Fed is ready to cut interest rates. And higher inflation is also really terrible to have. Virtually everything costs 26% more to live than it used to. This is unsustainable, and why the Fed is keeping interest rates unreasonably high. Trump doesn't like this. Banks don't like this. Borrowers don't like this. This is going to continue to strangle the economy. But Jerome Powell and the Fed believe if they keep interest rates higher for longer, eventually inflation will come down to their 2% target. But how much longer? And more often than not, they're usually responding to some sort of an economic crash, doing too little, too late. This tool in their toolkit to maintain market equilibrium probably does more harm than good, but it's an uphill battle now, and markets are already in serious fear zone. Last week, the S&P 500 dumped for 4 straight weeks with a gap down on the 4th week, and crypto markets were getting hammered as well. And one key metric, the fear and greed indicator or index, was hitting lows and levels we haven't seen since the bear market sell-off of 2022. We're talking extreme fear down to 10, which is extremely rare in any bull market. Now, why does this matter for XRP and XRP holders, especially upon such bullish news? Well, as I always say, a rising tide raises all ships. In a bull market, the strongest performers will typically outperform. But in a bear market or under bear market conditions, even the strongest performers struggle to do much of anything. And as far as major market cap cryptos go, XRP has been one of the strongest performers this entire market cycle. So Jerome Powell is going to speak today, and where the market closes around 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time or 7 p.m. Eastern Time will actually matter and could change everything. And in this video, I'll do my best to help you prepare and understand what comes next so you aren't caught off guard. So stay tuned. And as always, if you're feeling blessed and bullish, comment 777. And if you're going to be the wealthiest person in your family tree, smash the subscribe button. Hello and welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, my name is Paul and you can find me on Twitter or X at PauliDeFi, PauliDeFi. Now on the news, XRP did pump quite a bit. We're talking on the daily about 12+%. And why wouldn't you when XRP and Ripple are now in good standing with the US government? As even Brad Garlinghouse said 10 years ago, I would have not predicted that we'd be invited to the White House. Then the SEC is now dropping their appeal. However, there are some details that we do have to discuss surrounding what's really going on. Eleanor Tourette has consistently reported pretty solid information surrounding this. Now, in a previous post, she was talking about how two well-placed sources told her that the SEC and Ripple is soon to be over. That seemed to be true, as today, even pundits and all sorts of media outlets did not share the news before Brad Garlinghouse and Ripple shared it themselves, which leads me to believe they were in direct communication with the SEC, and the SEC didn't go to any press or journalists beforehand. Still, Eleanor Tourette is sharing some more details surrounding the case, so we're going to cover it. So I went ahead and highlighted the major points. First and foremost, Torres ruling still stands, which basically means that XRP itself is not a security. However, the SEC has agreed in principle to drop its appeal. Ripple, on the other hand, has not agreed to drop its own appeal, challenging the $125 million fine because there was an ongoing injunction that prevented them from selling XRP to institutional investors without registering those as sales of securities. So this whole thing was really around that $125 million fine, and if this was actually paid by Ripple, then they are agreeing to the fact that they were selling securities or unregistered securities to institutional investors, but they don't want to be doing that, especially if at some point in the future they want to go public. However, now the ball is in Ripple's court, as Ripple has the option to continue appealing the fine and injunction, and I'm sure they're going to get more favorable terms because they're already in a position of power, but I don't think they're probably just going to straight up drop it. As far as the SEC is concerned, however, and after more than 4 years of battling it out in court, the agency is no longer actively pursuing charges against Ripple, which is huge news. However, at the time of recording and on the daily, some other major news that is happening, this is like a double whammy today, is the fact that Jerome Powell and the Fed are going to share some info at the press conference on whether or not they're actually going to cut interest rates, which is extremely unlikely. And to be honest, most people, including myself, are probably not too worried about interest rates coming down right now, as much as we are about unexpected types of situations where they do something or say something that is far too dovish or hawkish. Because again, markets like certainty. They like to know what to expect before going into an event like this. And if something unexpected happens, then markets usually get in a flurry. And just a few minutes ago, it looks like they kept the interest rates exactly the same. And the FOMC press conference is currently being conducted and run. What I'm more focused on is the daily close at about 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time and 8 p.m. Eastern Time. By the way, I think I said it wrong earlier, right? But we're 3 hours behind on the West Coast relative to the East Coast. So everything that you see when you're looking at economic calendars or these types of situations on Bloomberg is typically talking about Eastern Time, right? ET. And so although we're actually up on this news from a local low of about $2.28 to currently about $2.50, if we close below this range right here at about 260, this would still be a new lower high in a longer, and I would say an intermediate term downtrend. Even though we're in a longer term uptrend, things are not looking too hot for price action. Now, if in this situation, let's just say we break to the upside just slightly above this range right here at 265, then the next day we see no follow through on the price in the same way we saw right here on the Trump pump, but instead we see see a break back down and a sell-off, then chances are this was kind of one of those things where you have to actually sell the news, because people might have been buying into the rumor right through here. So this type of price action on a major event like this in a very strong bull market would likely or should have taken us to above that $3 high for a new range high. But because the price action is still looking relatively weak and the trend is still pretty much down, I'm not too happy with how the price actually pumped today. Although it did pump and people are happy about maybe a $2.50 XRP, especially after seeing it dump one last time to 190, I think it's important to pay attention to follow through. I think follow through is going to be the most important thing. So yes, the next 24 hours are huge. That said, let's just dive into what's happening with the Fed. And then, obviously probably tomorrow I'll actually cover what he shared, because I'll have time to do analysis on it. I really have to sit and listen through some of these things. But here's the thing that's going on. Everything that's happening right now is putting the Fed between a rock and a hard place. And yes, although they don't look directly at markets, inflation isn't really looking low enough for them to lower interest rates. In other words, if inflation goes up, you want to be tightening. On the other hand, if unemployment rate goes up, you want to be loosening. As of right now, though, with the markets as they are, consumer sentiment has fallen. And Eric Rosengren, the former president of the Boston Fed, basically said for probably the next 6 months, I would expect the Fed to be watching and not doing very much, which is pretty hawkish when you really think about it. We're still going to keep things really tight, and we're going to keep them tighter for longer, when most people had already expected between 3 to 4 interest rates cuts by that point at least. Then the Philadelphia Fed president, Patrick Harker, said none of us in this profession can say for sure what's going to happen. So imagine even the people in the know at the Philadelphia Fed or the Boston Fed are kind of uncertain. All they know is, hey, over the next 6 months, we're not too sure what's going to happen, but it's likely we're going to stay tighter for longer. Very hawkish, and generally speaking, in an environment that's already starting to trend down, usually these guys are going to act too late. They're going to see markets continue to collapse or the bottom fall out, and then they're going to respond as people are already losing their jobs. And so for me, it's really important to pay attention to what's happening in the general market, because that's going to give us a take on how to approach our bags, whether it's XRP or other cryptos. And I understand there's so many people that are going to comment hate down below, like, you don't understand what XRP is and what it does and what the future is and blah, 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 blah. Now, maybe I don't, but either way, if it is the future, I'd still like to see a price above $3 to confirm the trend and the move. The price action right now is telling me a story. And so I like to typically look at the bigger players in the room. And the biggest player in the crypto market is Bitcoin. I don't care what anyone says. That's just a cold, hard stone fact. Okay, here's the thing. We have Bitcoin sitting at a $1.6 trillion market cap. Okay, XRP recently surpassed Tether upon the news, sitting at $143.8 billion. That is a huge market cap for virtually any company, especially in crypto, a very young and nascent industry. Is there an opportunity for XRP to be a $1 trillion+ market cap? I would say yes, of course, right? But is it going to happen all at once right now? Are they going to flip the switch into a private ledger? Listen, private ledgers have been built, and I will share that in another video for particular clients. However, what their ledger is, all it is XRP or Ripple technology, but XRP itself is on one ledger and one alone. It's the XRP ledger. So the price you're seeing on the asset you're buying is this one right here. Okay, it doesn't mean that they couldn't have built Ripple technology for other businesses or banks. They're using it privately, sure, but they're not trading XRP. They're just using a blockchain. Does that make sense? So that said, listen, I don't want to get into all this. What I'm trying to say is this. I am paying attention to the biggest player in the room because it typically leads the market. And so if it's currently down, even though it's down relative to XRP, and XRP is actually a stronger asset, seeing this type of buy pressure, even on very positive news for the entire industry upon that Ripple appeal and case and win against the SEC, which is huge for the industry. It truly is. This is very weak price action. So even if we came up to, let's say, 88,500 over the upcoming week or two, at the end of the day, we're still well below the major range. And I'd like to see Bitcoin reclaim this range for me to add size to any of my positions. If anything, me personally, this is not financial advice, I'm actually deleveraging and de-risking. I'm taking a bit of cash and sitting it on the sidelines and waiting to see what happens next. In other words, if we continue to break down, I'm going to be very happy if the prices hit these ranges right here between, 73,000 to 62,000, because I'll be able to add more to my positions on all cryptos, and that would include XRP. By the way, if Bitcoin breaks down, mark my words, you're going to watch this happen. And I don't claim to be, a fortune teller or a future teller, but I will say this: I've seen this so often in my experience with crypto that I am almost 100% sure that if Bitcoin dumped to like $63,000 to $65,000, someone says that's impossible. No, anything is possible in markets, okay? If that happens, mark my words, XRP will also go down with it. And I would like to have a bit of cash on the sidelines for it. Now, I'm not telling you to sell your entire portfolio, but sometimes it helps, right, to de-risk just a little. So that said, looking at something like XRP now, notice how XRP looks a heck of a lot stronger. Notice how we currently are just above that support at 225. That is very good looking. But generally speaking, with Bitcoin down the way it is, and with a potentially hawkish Fed, even though, we look like we want to break out right here, this news should have pumped the price a lot harder. And so the fact that it hasn't is also telling me something. The fact that, for example, volume on this day is still tremendously down and trending to the downside and declining, even on something as important as this, leads me to believe that this is actually, for me, a really good place in the market to take a bit of money off the table. Again, I'm not saying ruin your entire investment portfolio, sell it all. Listen, I'm not telling you to do anything, but for me, I am actually deleveraging a little. I'm de-risking a little. I actually took a bit of profit off the table on this little pump here, and I'm going to sit on the sidelines and just wait to see what happens. If I get back in with a little bit less XRP, but it's above $2.95 to $3, then I'm going to be very confident that this price action, so I have less XRP, but I have a far higher probability trade up here to the upside to actually make real money than to potentially sit in this and miss a few percentage points right here between $2.50 to $3 if it happens, right? Versus protecting myself against the downside, which is more likely and currently the path of least resistance. One last touch to 195 is going to be, I wouldn't say a death sentence to XRP, okay, but it will probably put us in through the rest of the summer. And you're going to be sitting in a very long-term position. And if anyone remembers, from March of 2024 all the way until we pumped in November of 2024, this was an opportunity cost. I could have been dollar cost averaging, but instead I'm sitting in a position, right? I could have been buying lower on most cryptos, especially on something like Bitcoin. But if you're just going to sit in a position like this for, almost 300 days, we're talking 245 days, it's also equally possible and potential it could have dumped lower than 38 cents. Who says it can't? Okay. We've seen everything in crypto markets. And so for me, it's important to prepare for everything, whether we break to the upside or break to the downside. I'm not all in. I'm not all out. I'm not over leveraging. The market, environment we're in is currently too uncertain. I am currently betting more to the downside, which is why I want to have a bit of cash on the sidelines. And even if we break out to that $3 range, perfect. I'm very happy. I will deploy capital and cash there because this is a far higher probability trade that we are officially done trending to the downside, and we're going to get some strength and momentum to the upside. And by the way, I think truly at this point, a break above 340 is easily going to take us to like $5. I think $5 would be our next major mental resistance, if you will. So that's extremely important for me to pay attention to. And everything that happens today into tomorrow and the close, the next 24 hours, is going to be key in telling me whether or not we're going to make a continuation or a move to the upside and to a breakout. Personally, I'm betting more to the downside. That doesn't mean I'm an ultra bear or I hate XRP XRP. It simply means I'm being realistic about what's happening, what the market is telling me based on the price action, based on the volume, based on the fact that on probably the biggest news we've ever received since the 2023 ruling from Torah saying XRP isn't a security. That's huge, guys. That is so freaking huge. And this is all it could muster. So that's a little bit scary for me. And that's why I want to pay attention to what the Fed says today. I want to pay attention to the close, and I want to pay attention to what happens on the follow through tomorrow. So with all of that said, listen, if you enjoyed that video and you learned something new, be sure to smash the subscribe button, and also head on over to bullrunners.com to check out Altcoin Pro University. This is your one-stop shop to really get this type of analysis, but far more in depth behind the scenes in our classroom settings where you can actually ask questions live, and I'll be sure to answer them. I teach you everything from technical analysis to fundamental analysis and all sorts of other stuff, and it's not just me. We have a team of pros and experts that are also in there constantly sharing some insane altcoin opportunities, yield earning opportunities, putting your crypto to work for you, how to actually get into stable coins and de-risk a bit and actually earn interest on those stable coins in a very safe manner. We have everything for everyone you could possibly ever want inside of this university, and so I'm not guaranteeing any results, but we're really excited because we're going to be launching some new stuff that are only available for members. We're also going to be hosting another live event, I believe, at some point in time in the future, very near future, not too far off. And you have to be a member where we're going to be doing some really cool things for those members. So you're going to want to at least check it out, watch this short video, and then from there, make your decision. But listen, we have a lot of people that are paying to be here because the value is bar none the best in the space, and we do stand by that. We have everything you could possibly think of. So for example, if you come over to the community, you come over to the university library, you click on that bad boy, you can see all of the strategies and guides, the how-tos, the psychology, the dangers, the narratives and breakdowns, and getting ahead of trends and curves, even to the point where we have all of our live calls inside of one of our classrooms. So if you come over here to live call recordings, our expert Yoni, he's insane, I'm telling you. On our last monthly masterclass, we talked about stablecoins and yield strategies, and right here he covers everything from stablecoin types and use cases to earning passive and DeFi yields on certain stablecoins. So let's say you're going to get into just a bit of a stablecoin because the market's currently a little, uncertain and things aren't looking as good as they should. How do you do that in a safe manner? How do you check between different products and APYs and what's safe and how do you do it? He explains everything inside of this one video, and to me, this is worth the entire membership and the course, considering, for some of you, earning 5% on whatever you stable up might actually be worth well over that and then some, especially if the markets dump a little bit more, right? He even shares stablecoin PDFs and the presentation. I mean, this stuff is really freaking cool, guys, and the value literally never ends. We're constantly in here updating and answering questions, and people even can chat or message us privately, which we get to all the time. So that said, go to bullrunners.com. You can find the link in the description below. Thanks so much for watching this video, my friend. I look forward to seeing you next time. Goodbye.